Today, what we're going to be covering is why you should start a subscription business, why you should think about subscription commerce. Um, it seems like a relatively kind of new idea, but it's been around for a little bit. And to kind of illustrate that, I can give you a little bit of sense of my background. Um, Before working at Cratejoy, I've been involved in maybe about a half dozen subscription businesses. The first subscription business I started was called Conscious Box. It was in early 2011, so it was quite a long time ago. In terms of the age of this industry, it was right around when the boxes were kind of just coming out. It was like Birchbox was still new then, and Conscious Box was very much a first generation subscription box. It was low priced. It was built on the sample model. And every month we introduced our subscribers to healthy natural products that were great alternatives to the stuff that they were using every single day. And so it was a nice way for people to sign up, get a bunch of different products each month, and kind of try before they buy. Get a good sense of what eco-natural products they wanted to use. So fast forward a little bit, I've been involved with starting other businesses or helping coach people who started these businesses, including Loot Crate, started Escape Monthly. I worked with another partner at Cratejoy, a business called Yogi Surprise. I have my own business right now called Prosperly. Besides that, I've helped lots of friends launch businesses, art boxes, vegan boxes, pet boxes. Basically, for the last 5 years, I've been doing nothing but putting products in boxes. But what's been really interesting about that is to see the kind of the natural progression of how this industry has kind of come to be, and the trends that we can see here. And there's lots of cool things that we've learned over these last couple of years that will really inform new business owners on how to execute these businesses really well right from the beginning. What we'll do today is cover all that, and we're going to go over it. We're going to look at some general things about the business model. What is subscription commerce? I'm going to give you a couple reasons why we love it at Cratejoy. I'm going to give you a great reason to start a subscription business today, and then of course, like we do with every single one of our webinars, we always like to give you guys some action items. So what to do next, where to find resources, how to get started. I want to make sure that you leave the webinar today feeling like you can go out there and start a business in the next month, which I think is totally doable. So we got quite a few more people here now too. So just to let you know one more time, if you do have questions or comments, please post them in the GoToWebinar control panel. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen. Any questions you have, I'm happy to answer them at the end of this webinar, or we can build guides around them, or we might even make them topics of our next webinar. So feel free to just pour away. You can ask multiple questions, and we'll do our best to answer all of them. Besides me here, there's also Tolu, who works as the head of growth at Cratejoy. He's going to be answering questions too. So you've got a couple people here to answer your questions for you. So that was the overview. I like to say, as a step one, before you even think about launching the business or really spending a lot of time on your idea, I would say go start a free trial at Cratejoy. And the reason why I say this is because it'll give you a really good sense of the platform that I think is the best in the space right now, but also a good sense of like what it actually means to like manage this business. Traditionally with a business, whether you're doing e-commerce or whether you're doing maybe a brick and mortar store, you're usually using a lot of different services. You might be using, Magento for your e-commerce store, and then using ShipStation for shipping, and then using, some other type of billing platform for renewing orders or something like that. And if you do have experience using multiple platforms, I like to push you to opening a Cratejoy store, because it gives you a really good sense of how cohesive the platform is, in the sense of pulling all of your needs into one space. So if you go to start.cratejoy.com, you can start a free trial. You don't have to enter a credit card or anything like that. It's really easy to kind of work through the design and just kind of click around and get a sense of how Cratejoy works. And there's also really simple ways to extend your trial. I'm all about extending trials. So when I actually started my free trial at Cratejoy, I think I extended about a month before actually launching the store. But just by tweeting and stuff like that, you can get a couple extra days. It doesn't cost you anything, and it gives you a good sense of how this business is going to work. So do that today, or do that sometime after the webinar, or even during the webinar. If you want to get some early resources, as far as like a sample procurement worksheet or a product sourcing worksheet and a brand invitation, these are things that I use in my business and that a lot of people use in their businesses that it can take some time to make. And so what I've done is made a couple templates that I share with my newsletter subscribers on my blog. There's also examples of these things like on Subscription School. But if you want my specific resources that I use in my day-to-day, if you just go to jesserichardson.com and you enter your email into the pop-up or the newsletter thing, I'll send you send these out probably by the end of the day tomorrow. I don't send a lot of emails, so don't worry about being spam or anything like that. But I'll send these PDFs to you, and it'll give you a sense of how to pitch your business to other vendors of products you'll be putting in your box, and also how to organize that process and in terms of knowing how much you're spending on products, how that affects retail value of your box, keeping track of your product sourcing basically. And so this is like a worksheet that I've been basically building over the last couple of years with my partners. It makes it really fast and really easy to know where your products are coming from and how much they're costing you. So I've got a couple of comments here. It sounds like someone says that there's no sound. If there's any sound or connection issues, let me know if it's coming through. I see here another one, the audio isn't great. Let me try to switch over my Wi-Fi here. Okay, cool. Looks like it's working better now. Okay, great. So let's jump right into this. I want to power through this content here over about 15-20 minutes, and then just get right to your questions. So, what is subscription commerce? This might be something that we've all we feel like we've come across now, especially with Birchbox or Dollar Shave Club or Netflix or Pandora or Spotify. It's like we get a good sense of this, but what really is it? So a simple definition is just that customers are paying a fee, usually monthly, quarterly, or annually, to receive a product on a recurring schedule. That's what subscription commerce generally really just means. I mean, it is. When we make a transaction in real life, and I give you a couple dollars for a hamburger, that's called a financial transaction. When we make that transaction over the internet, it's called e-commerce. And when we schedule that transaction to happen automatically based on a defined period, that's called subscription commerce. So it's not a crazy difficult concept, but here's kind of like the life cycle that I've illustrated here. And as you can tell, I'm not the best graphic designer in the world, but basically there's this initial engagement with your brand. A customer subscribes to your product, they receive the product, and then they go through the cycle of receiving and renewing and receiving and renewing and receiving and renewing. This part of your business of receiving and renewing is really important. It's about lifetime value. This is about the ongoing experience of your customer. This is really where the artwork of running these businesses comes into play. And while we aren't going to really jump into a lot of the operations today, this is where you as a business owner get to do a lot of really fun things. And even if you use other brands' products, this is where a lot of your personality and your branding and your own product comes to life. And then eventually the customer cancels. So that's subscription commerce in a nutshell. And there's a couple of big reasons why we love subscription commerce at Cratejoy and why I love it as a business owner. I kind of pinned down these three basic reasons, these three L's. The life cycle, which is the life cycle of the business and its unique attributes. So how does the business function on the day-to-day basis? What tasks do you have to do every single month to make these businesses run efficiently and run well? Logistics, which is going to be handling the business. So in terms of the levers and pulleys, how difficult or easy is it to actually run these businesses? And then the luxury of these businesses. I mean, there's a lot of really great aspects about subscription commerce and these subscription businesses in general that make it a great way to monetize your passion. And these 3 points are kind of what we're going to be focusing on today and what this actually means. A couple questions that you're asking: are you going to discuss how to brainstorm ideas? Yeah, I'm going to cover a little bit of that today. About actually how to come up with your ideas, and I'm also going to be pointing you to a lot of different resources that you can use if you're thinking about it. So we've talked about subscription commerce a little bit. We know why we like it. We know what it is at this point. So before I go forward to the presentation, I want to ask you some questions. The first one is, have you tried starting a business before? So this should pop up on your screen, and you can select yes, no, or sort of, but you never launched. And I just want to know, where are you at in your entrepreneurial journey? It looks like most of you have. About 70% of you have started a business before. about 20% sort of started one and then never really executed, and then about 15% of you haven't. So the really cool thing about these businesses is that if you have lots of experience, there's a lot of things that you can do right from the beginning that's going to be a lot easier for you since you have that experience. But also, if you haven't, these businesses are still very easy to run in a way. They're nothing really worth doing is easy, obviously, but the operations that you have to do, it's gonna be a good and mostly simple learning experience, especially when you compare it to other types of businesses that you might want to open or start. So let me close this poll. Um, so assuming that everybody here is then thinking about starting a subscription business or adding it to their existing business, I want to know one more question from you. What stage are you at in launching your subscription business? If you aren't started at all and you're just coming up with the idea, this is going to be a good introduction, I think, for you. Just a webinar, just kind of prefacing some very general elements of these businesses. But also, if you've already launched, let me know that too, because I would love to know more about where you're coming from and the questions that you're asking, how they relate to your experience with this business model. So let me go ahead and close this poll now. So I can share these results with you. So, kind of here too. So even though most of you have started a business, it looks like a lot of everybody is really just kind of coming up with the idea, or they've got their idea and they're just beginning with these early tasks. Got a couple people who are pre-launching and a couple people who have launched. So I'll hide these results now. So a couple more questions that have come in here. Yes, this webinar will be recorded. This will be on Subscription School and on YouTube. You will also be able to get these slides later. I'll download this. I'll export this as a PDF that you can reference forever. There's also this exact presentation in an older form is already on Subscription School. It's with Jameson, and so him and I are both doing the webinar at that time. It's not completely the same, but it's if you do want some of these resources right now, you can always reference that video. So let's jump through this. So reason one. So why do we like subscription commerce? And I mentioned life cycle. And so a life cycle of this business is the same way you think about a life cycle of a customer. What's the points in the journey that define the existence of that business? So I like to start with a consideration of something that we're all probably familiar with, brick and mortar businesses. This is probably something that we've all thought about starting, or we have friends who've started, or we've obviously had experiences with since we've walked into stores before and purchased products. And when you think about those things, or these types of businesses, there's a couple observations you can make early on when comparing it and thinking about it in terms of an internet business. So first off, you have this ambiguous customer lifetime value, or LTV. And lifetime value just means the total monetary value that customer brings your business over the course of their quote unquote lifetime. So when they engage with your business to when they stop engaging with your business. So if someone is buying products from you for 2 years, their lifetime was 2 years and they might have spent $200, and that was their yearly lifetime value was $100 or $200 in all. So to track that through a brick and mortar business, through non-regular purchasing, it's really difficult to track that. There are cool ways to try to do that nowadays, thanks to technology, but to really pinpoint each person who walks in your brick and mortar, it's going to be very difficult. In addition to this, you've got rent, you've got utilities, zoning, workplace, customer, employee dynamics, these face-to-face things. You've got to have specific types of insurance, permits. If you're making some type of a food product, you've got to have a commercial kitchen. There's a lot of things that go into a brick and mortar business just at the onset that make it very difficult when comparing it to an internet business. And then finally, if you have an isolated locale, you're only serving local customers. You can have a brick and mortar business and obviously have a website and be selling things online, but the basis of your business is limited when comparing it to the internet. So when we think about it in terms of an online subscription business, we have electronic records that we can export. It's super simple. For example, in CrateJoy, to export your subscriber base, there's already calculations being done about LTV, so you can look right in your dashboard as, okay, here's the total dollar value average across all of my subscribers. Here's how long they stay on across all my subscribers. Um, Also, with a subscription business, you have recurring revenue as the main staple of your business. I mean, you're not going to be launching a subscription business to have a subscription box and then sell products in your store. And hope that e-commerce side of your business really takes off. You will undoubtedly notice that your recurring revenue of your subscriptions is going to be the bulk of your revenue for the entire business. When you compare that to the non-regular purchasing of a brick and mortar store or even a traditional e-commerce store, that's one of the biggest differences in life cycle that makes these businesses so great. Obviously, internet-based, we have a wider consumer reach. You're able to use the power of Instagram and Google ads and Facebook ads and Pinterest and et cetera, to reach a whole different group of customers that might have never otherwise come across your business. I mean, you cannot sell your widget to Jane, who lives in Iowa, if she never walks into your store as a brick and mortar business. So your opportunity for capturing customers and capturing additional revenue is obviously amplified through the internet. And then the other cool thing about these subscription businesses deals with this specific task based around the product. I mean, you think of setting up a brick and mortar store and carrying stock and arranging your store and doing, retail design, maybe fulfilling one-off orders, doing custom orders for local customers. It's a very wide set of responsibilities that you have in order to execute that type of business model well. And I've seen this in real life. My parents have owned brick and mortar stores, art galleries, restaurants, where I've seen them spend considerable effort and energy and a whole lot of money designing these experiences in their brick and mortar stores, which, when done well, obviously works great. I mean, if you walked into an Apple store or like a Williams Sonoma, like those are two vastly different stores that give you the exact experience you want to have when dealing with that product. I mean, if you can get those things down well, you can sell products really well. But when you compare that to the task of product sourcing for a subscription service and fulfilling those orders each month, I mean, just the amount of time is considerably less. It's minute compared to the operations and time you have to spend on brick and mortar businesses. And so those differences in lifestyle is really what got me personally initially interested in these businesses. It's like, I want to run a business from home. I don't want to have to carry a bunch of stock. I don't want to have to be worrying about employees. I don't want to have to be worrying about rent, zoning, all these different things. I want something that's going to be simple to manage. I can go into one place online, deal with my customers, deal with my customer service, and then have a fun time throughout the rest of the month actually fulfilling a product, which is a subscription box. So that goes into logistics. So we understand the life cycle of the business, but what does that actually look like logistically speaking? So generally, subscription commerce businesses are going to offer you simple logistics when compared to a brick and mortar store or a traditional e-commerce store. Why is that? First of all, the technology is out there. And to give you a sense of how this has progressed, because I understand it might sound a little vague, the technology is out there. What does this actually mean? When I started Conscious Box with my business partners in 2011, we were using a static website. So it wasn't dynamically updated. We weren't using WordPress. We weren't using some CMS to update it. It was a static site, and we had integrated it with PayPal. That whole process was painful to update. PayPal customer accounts were a real pain in the butt to manage. We were hopping between lots of different platforms for shipping, for managing customer accounts, to doing customer service, to updating the website. It was insanely difficult to keep track of all of those things. When we eventually raised about venture capital for that business, we moved our business up to Portland, Oregon, and we got a warehouse where we started getting tons of inventory. We tried to build a much more sophisticated sample tracking system through Magento. We spent about $200,000 on this piece of technology, and ongoing, it was about $5,000 or $10,000 a month to make sure that there weren't any bugs with our system, to make sure things that were being updated correctly. Just maintaining our own technology cost us exorbitant amount of money. And when I compare that to the $40 monthly fee of Cratejoy, this is one of the reasons why I decided to work for this company, is because the solution that CrateJoy offers is is incredibly well priced for what you're getting compared to how it used to be, and it's just so easy. It's so much easier than it used to be. And so when I consider that, that's a major barrier to entry that's been removed. The technology to launch a subscription box specifically through one platform makes it a whole lot more accessible for you and I. The other thing is the product is out there. Brands want to be featured. These different companies that are in retail outlets, they feel the same pressure that I just described earlier with Lifecycle. I mean, it's irregular sales. I mean, you can count on a distributor buying products from you and then getting a commission of that, or you could probably count on a couple wholesale orders a month. But from all of the brands that I speak to, all the vendor partners in my current business, Prosperly, they are super excited to be inside of a subscription box. They may or may not heard about the business idea, the business model, or getting their businesses inside of them, but they're jubilant with the prospect of getting 200 or 300 or 400 or 1,000 or 10,000 units of their product in people's hands. And so the supply side of your business is there. And then also the customers out there. The demand side is also there. Social media, ads, newsletters, all of these things are more measurable than local ads. And in addition to that, when you look at the trends for subscription boxes, these things, it's still going up. I mean, customers are intrigued. This is a novel product experience. I still talk to people who are like, wait, explain to me what you do again. Like, you put a bunch of stuff in a box and you mail it to people. And I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of a simplification of it, but that's basically the idea. I'll be out and sometimes I hear people talking about subscription boxes and I still like, my ears kind of perk up. I'm like, wow, this is like catching on. So your means to build this business is there. The supply for your product is there, and the demand is there, and it's growing an insane amount. Just as a quick mention in terms of tracking demand, if you head over to my blog, one thing I do once a month is I will take a Google report for subscription boxes, and I'll just do like a quick drill down of what's the trends looking like over the last 2 or 3 years, and then including these last months. I'll go into the different cities, the different places geographically. I'll just give some kind of thoughts about what I think is happening there. I compare the keywords. It's just a short kind of analysis of Google Trends for subscription boxes and the search term subscription box specifically. So I notice it every single month that these businesses and the search volume for these products are always going up. And I've been looking at this for, like I said, about 4.5 years now, 5 years now, and it doesn't show any sense of stopping soon. So the bottom line is, in terms of logistics, the actual levers and pulleys of a subscription business have become super accessible. Whether it is fulfilling your box or managing customer accounts, in order to do these things now, I mean, you're going to be spending hours a month on this, whereas you used to spend dozens of hours a month on this. I want to let everybody know that I am seeing your questions, and I'll be answering them here at the end. I'm going to see if there's any of them that are applicable to what we're talking about right now. I'll tell these for the end. Okay, so let's jump into the third reason. Luxury. So this is pretty serious, actually. Like, before Conscious Box, I had started a business called Organic Soul, and it was an online publication. And it was a health and wellness publication, so we covered health, environmental policy, spirituality, recipes, and then we had flash sales. To manage that business, to execute on the required tasks to get revenue in the business and do these flash sales, it took a lot of finagling. It was a lot of work, a lot of operations, and a lot of coordination within a team of writers and editors and salespeople setting up products. One of the luxuries of a subscription box is that when you execute it well from the start, you're going to be able to run a lot of the operations completely on your own, and that means you're going to be your own boss, your own team. On the downside, you might argue that means you have to be a whole lot more accountable, which is definitely true. But the luxury of being able to operate your own business basically by yourself is something that's really difficult for me to describe sometimes. From the amount of time I consider even spending at my day job, compared to the amount of time I spend working on my own business. Not only is working on your own business really fulfilling, and when you feel that ownership of something, are you really fulfilled? Um, but it allows you to take ownership of those tasks and really put your heart and soul into it. And if you want to do something well, you've got to want to do it. And so the luxury of that mindset that's provided by this business model at this time is hands down one of the best things about it. Um, and when it comes to monetizing your passion, then this is a great way to monetize your passion. I mean, if you love yoga products, or if you love vegan food, or if you love wrestling, um, you can find an online community that also loves those things. You can market to that community, and then you can spend, 50 hours a month curating this package around this passion of yours, around these bottles that you build, or around these things that you knit, and you can find the best threads for it and the best needles for it, and then you can buy, all those products in bulk, and then give it to 500 people who are just like you. The amount of feedback you'll get from happy customers is going to make your day every single day. The amount of learning you're going to get around your passion is going to go up every single day. Just the conversations that I've had with the business owners I work with, it's in the kind of organic local artisan niche, is really rewarding for me, since I love working with businesses who are small and who are just getting started, or maybe they're established but they are still a small business and it's being made in someone's home, or it's being made in small, very very small batches. To me, getting those products into people's hands who love those types of products is really rewarding. Both the customers love them, and the brands and the vendors themselves are like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of. I'm getting more sales. It's like you can really change another business's uh, revenue for a month, or even ongoing for many months, through this business model. And so you empower a lot of people. And so when done correctly, you can make a lot of money from a small spend of customers as well. I mean, you don't need to have 1,000 customers to make a lot of money. To give you a sense of scale, uh, Conscious Fox, at its highest point when I left, was in the tens of thousands of subscribers. We were about at, I want to say, about around 30-40K subscribers. So it was a pretty huge business. We had a team of 17 full-time employees. We had about 60 part-time employees helping pack our boxes and managing our warehouse. So there's about 100 people at our office at any given moment. And that was obviously really rewarding. I mean, we were able to do a lot of cool things with that type of revenue. We could do cool marketing things. We could compensate our people really well. But what I've noticed after, moving away from Conscious Fox and starting smaller businesses, even with my current business, Prosperly, it has about 220, 230 customers. So very, very small when I compare it to it. This is a business I spend 5 to 10 hours a week on. I'm still able to make a considerable amount of money on the side just from that, just because pricing's been established. And you can, personally, I can take home $2,000 or $3,000 extra a month on the side from my full-time job, just from 200, 300 customers, because it's a little bit higher price of a box. I've got good margins, and churn is low. In other words, I have lots of people staying around. I have high retention. And if this is you and you want to work a part-time job doing something else, and maybe working on an English program because you want to go get a master's degree, or you want to work part-time in criminal justice because you want to go off and do this, but you want to have a couple $1,000s extra each month, this could be a really great way for you to build that extra income into your life, without having to sacrifice 40 hours a week doing something else. So I like to think of these businesses as a kind of a new phenomenon in business. It's high reward and low risk. When I think about the investment bankers, who are my friends, or my friends who are running brick and mortar businesses, or my friends who are programmers and developing apps, they are like constantly stressed out. It is a constant juggling act. It's a lot of stress. And I'm really grateful that they're like, "How's your business going?" I'm like, "Oh, it's going great. Like no stress here." I'm just kind of focusing on getting 20, 30 more customers each month, and kind of doing it on the side, and I don't have to really worry about it. And I can just see in their faces, they're like, that's an awesome business model. Like, how do I get involved in that? In fact, I've got a friend who's coming up to Portland to spend just an entire week up here just to shadow and get a sense of how these businesses work, because he's tired of working in the retail space. And he has a great job at a huge retailer, but it's just, it's a constant, it's a kind of like a constant minutia you get into when you are working some job like that, and these businesses give you the opportunity to do a lot of really cool active things. Um, so why start a subscription business? First off is you can. I mean, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, you can start a subscription business. You can see a couple examples here of people who've done it. And these are 3 examples of, I want to say, like, 500, 600 people at Cratejoy alone who've done it and are successful. If you have a passion, and if you can identify a community with that passion that you can get access to, like through Instagram or online or anything like that, you can really easily build a business in a matter of weeks. You can start a pre-launch campaign to gain traction, and that's something I've seen a couple of you ask questions about, so I'll go in a little bit more detail about that. And you can kick off your business with hundreds of customers. When I launched Prosperly, my little hobby business, I launched with about 150 customers the first month. And then over like the last 7 months or so, I've grown by about 100 customers total volume, and I'm spending very little time on it each month. And it's very doable. Grant, I have a lot of experience in this, and I think that's definitely something worth considering. But I've also seen a lot of people who don't have a lot of experience in this do very, very well over a short period of time. We've got Faithbox down here in the bottom. This guy Willie Morris, he kicked it off. He's got hundreds of subscribers. In the middle is WrestleCrate, father-son business. The guy who owns WrestleCrate, he's been working, I think what I read in the story, about the same job for like 15 years. He started WrestleCrate, and within 3 months he had quit that job that he had for over a decade, and is now completely working at home with his family and with his son, finding awesome wrestle products, and it's completely changed his life. Bookworm Box on the right, I think is a really funny example because they're doing extremely well. And what they did is they started a subscription box because of a lot of the reasons what we talked about earlier in terms of it being better than a brick and mortar. But then because it was so successful, they're using their subscription box to open up a brick and mortar store called Bookworm Box, and it's actually a retail space. And I think that's really telling. I mean, these people wanted to have a face in the community, and instead of risking it and going out and starting a retail space that could have potentially failed because maybe Bookworm Box, you walk past that, you're not really sure what it is, or you have the standard conversion problems of a brick and mortar place. They built a loyal customer base around a digital product, not a digital product, but an online subscription commerce business, and then they use that to build a brand for themselves and expand their business horizontally and get into the community. And I think that's a great example of why these businesses are better than brick and mortars, because this business will compensate you well and also enable you to start other businesses like a brick and mortar store. So let's slide here. What are you waiting for? What is keeping you from it? Just get started on it. Now, I understand you might be like, well, Jesse, that sounds great and all, but there's some things preventing me from actually launching my subscription business. That's why I'm here. I'm going to ask you some questions. So I'm going to launch a quick poll about this. What are you waiting for? What of the following tasks are really preventing you from kicking off this business? I think the most common answer to this is actually the easiest thing to get over. So I'm going to let some of these more votes come in because it looks like it's going to trend the same way it does each time we have this webinar. It's pretty close though. It looks like it's between design and creative and financial constraints. It's about 70% of you have voted. I'm eager to see what the outcome is here. Okay, so we got about 75% of you have voted. I'm going to go ahead and close this poll now. And I'm going to share the results with you. So here's what you're waiting for. You either feel like you can't do the design, or you feel like you can't afford it. And then, about 1 in 6 of you either feels like it's a time commitment issue or confidence or just getting the idea. Let me start with the confidence because that's the easiest answer, I think, right now. The biggest way to build your confidence to launch these businesses is to do a pre-launch. And a pre-launch is a short campaign before you actually commit to the business where you can get initial traction and you can test your idea basically. So for example, let me shoot over here and I'll show you what a pre-launch campaign looks like. So if you're wondering, you're like, you're getting your idea, or you're worried about financial constrictions, or this kind of applies to all of you. If you think that you want to validate your idea first, you can do a pre-launch like this, and you can see here on my screen it says this little orange block here, Prosperly. This was a landing page where I pushed traffic to before launching my Cratejoy store. I pushed traffic to this page, and I tried to convert people into quote unquote pre-subscribe. And so I didn't know if people were going to like my idea. Oh, let me delete the quick poll here. Sorry. Let me see here. It's not showing. Okay, so the poll should be up now. Okay. So you should see it here. So this little Prosperly screen here. It's a very simple little landing page. In fact, I think I can even still navigate to it. If you go to join.prosperly.com, you can see it too. This is the landing page. This is my pre-launch page. And so I was pushing people here on Instagram to get their emails to see what kind of conversion rates I was going to see at this page. Did people like my idea, or was I just choosing something? Did I have a terrible idea? Because I kind of lacked a little bit of confidence. I didn't really know if this was going to work. It converted really, really well. It ended up converting around a 23% conversion rate. So 1 in every 5 people, basically 4 people who hit this page gave me their email address. That gave me a lot of confidence. That also helped me really hone in on my idea. So if you're worried about if your idea is good, or if you're worried about how well you're communicating that idea, set up a pre-launch. If you're looking for an idea in general right now, and you're looking for a specific niche, my advice to you would be go as micro niche as possible. The more niche you go, whereas as an example, snacks versus healthy vegan snacks. When you look at snacks as a niche, it's very general. I see a lot of snack boxes that don't have a niche to them. It's just kind of general snacks, and I feel like that's that's a non-sustainable subscription business, because when you have to pick a niche that's going to be very specific and very rewarding and valuable to the type of customers who would subscribe to that niche. So a good example of a niche is Jameson's, who also works here as the director of consumer marketing. Is his business Yogi Surprise? He's also one of the co-founders of Conscious Box. His is a yoga box, and he has a lifestyle box and a jewelry box. So we have a very specific community right here. We have a yoga community who it's not just an exercise, but also a lifestyle. Excuse me. But you can see how specific it is. I mean, it's branded along this very specific niche of people, and this works really well for him. I mean, it converts great. And the product experience is really appreciated because the types of customers he's getting want to have this type of experience because that's who they are as people. For those of you who think time or commitment is going to be a big issue, I can tell you it's going to be a big commitment probably early on, especially with early branding, getting your site set up. But once you get everything prepared, and once you get all your infrastructure built, and if you want a guide to see how much you need to do, come to Subscription School and go to this guide right here. It's how I built a subscription business that's made over $50K in 6 months. This was an article I published a couple months ago on Prosperly. It has screenshots, full. It has it has my branding. It has my pre-launch page, my early social media posts. It has my welcome emails. How I set up my CRM for product sourcing, how I set up Zendesk for customer service. If you think it's going to be a big time commitment, this will give you a really good sense of the actual things that you'll be doing throughout the business. And that might add a lot of visibility for your concern. And the truth is, yeah, it is a time commitment. Currently, possibly it takes me about 10 hours a week or less. So it's not really huge at this point. That's because I've automated a lot of things. And I do work with one other person who helps a little bit with customer service, although customer service is usually only a 2-hour-a-week job. But check out this guy. This will give you a lot of good information as far as your time or commitment. I would say this: if you have 20 hours a week right now, 15 hours a week that you can chisel out of your schedule, you can run a successful subscription business. You might not have a lot of customers, but you can get a couple hundred customers if you launch correctly, and then you can still be making that $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month on the side just for the small group of a couple hundred customers, and only spending a couple hours a week on it. For financial constraints, I think that's the most interesting, and that's also the most commonly chosen reason that people don't start these businesses. I I will tell you right now, for Prosperly, because I did a pre-launch, I only ended up coming out of pocket at about $1,500, and that was for plates and dies for custom boxes. And so I stylized my own boxes here, and you can see that here. Um, and so to get the plates and dies, the actual things that print these boxes, it costs about $1,500. So I had to come out of pocket for that. But I just put it on a credit card, honestly. I wasn't, I didn't really have the complete means to quote unquote launch this business. But I just threw it on a credit card and I made it back within the first 2 or 3 months. And the way I made it back from the first 2 or 3 months is that I did the pre-launch that I was describing earlier. If you can get a couple hundred people who are interested in your product, when you launch, you can expect 10 or so percent of those people to probably convert. And with those sales the first month, I used the profit in the first month to just start to pay me back. And the first 2, 3, 4 months, it was kind of a game of me taking a portion, paying people with it, and then paying me back a little bit, and then doing certain things with it. So it might take you 2 months, maybe even, to kind of recoup your startup costs. But when you consider that after the first 2 months is up, that you're gonna have a fully functional business that you can, completely almost, potentially even rely on in a couple months and even quit your current job, it's super worth it. So financial commitment, don't think it's going to cost too much money. You don't have to go with custom printed boxes either in the beginning. I mean, you can come out of pocket $400 for a domain, Zendesk, a CRM, and your custom inserts the first time around or something like that. And you might only come out of pocket $200 or $300. And after your first 2 or 3 months, as long as you're growing and as long as you pre-launch with a good group of customers, you're going to make that money back and you're going to be able to pay your bills for your business and maybe even take home a small check. So don't worry too much about financial constraints. As far as designing creative tasks, full disclosure right now, I am not a designer. I'm not a graphic designer. I'm a writer, actually. I went to school for political science. So you can see a lot of this in my early branding. I mean, this stuff is it looks all right, but it's not very good. I think the biggest example is my packaging. It went from this orange box to tons of different things and eventually became this very flowery, artsy box here. It took me a lot of time. This was my biggest commitment of time, was just in the packaging. But as far as designing creative tasks, you can do it. I would suggest getting the Adobe Suite, Creative Cloud. It's $15 a month for Photoshop. Watch YouTube videos. I mean, you don't have to do a lot of different design stuff. You can CreateJoy's themes are great. You can customize the themes a little bit. I just made this customized one right here in WordPress. In Photoshop, and then I gave this to a developer and I said, I don't know how to do this, but please make my website look like this. And then he just did it himself. I had all these resources available for him. I had these pictures that I made and these things that I photoshopped in, but he's the one who actually implemented the design. And it was very reasonable. It was $30 an hour. And if you're looking for a developer, I'll tell you right now, I can refer you to the guy I used. Maybe either email me at jesse@createjoy.com or go over to my blog, sign up for my newsletter, and then reply to my welcome email and say, hey, Jesse, I was in the webinar. I want to use your developer. His name's Kevin. He works up here in Portland. He's working on a couple other businesses for me right now, too. He's really good. He's really great at CreateJoy, really great prices, too. So if you can just get your way around Photoshop, or you've got someone on your team who kind of just can get their way around Photoshop, you can still execute a good business. You do not have to be a professional developer to launch this business, or designer. So let's see here. Just while we're asking these final questions here, a quick assignment. What I'd like you all to do today: go start your free trial at CreateJoy. It doesn't. You don't have to enter a credit card. You don't have to do anything like that. Just go start the free trial. Check out the platform. If you have any questions about the platform, how it works, that type of thing, you can ask me either through emailing me or by posting to the CreateJoy wall, facebook.com/CreateJoy. And get started on your free trial. Start to download the resources that I've made available to you, like this procurement sheet and the brand invitation. Remember, if you want to get that into your email into my pop-up, and I'll send them over to you, and we can even have a short little email conversation if you'd like. Get those resources, look at them, kind of get a better sense of what this business looks like, and then get started on working on your store. Start to go through the CreateJoy designer. Start to get a good sense for it. I mean, the first 2 or 3 weeks of launching your business, you should be doing a pre-launch. And while you're pre-launching, you should be getting your chops down. Start practicing Photoshop. Start practicing making packing lists. Start practicing looking for products. Those types of things. So consider this your assignment. Maybe take a screenshot of this. But on December 23rd, and I know it's the holidays next week, but over this weekend, you can do all these things. You can start your free trial. You can get these resources, and you can get yourself better equipped to make the decision if you actually want to start this type of business. So let's do Q&A. I'm going to jump into the Q&A, and as I do the Q&A, I'm going to leave this this action item reminders here on the screen just to so you can reference it. This number 2 on the list is a webinar called The Right Way to Launch a Subscription Business. This is a really great webinar hosted by Jameson, and if you want to watch it, go to the videos at Subscription School, and on the under these videos here, it's webinar number 3, The Right Way to Launch a Subscription Business. He goes over some really smart ideas with pre-launching, the stuff that him and I have learned through many mistakes. So go there, subscriptionschool.com/videos, and watch that webinar. I really suggest that being an action item, especially if you want to launch one of these businesses. And then just generally review our resources at subscriptionschool.com for custom packaging, for fulfillment, for web design and development. We've got people there who are all very qualified, competent, and really well priced. So if you haven't asked a question yet, go ahead and pop that into the GoToWebinar control panel, and I'm going to go ahead and start answering these. So the first question is about business structuring. So do you incorporate a business do you incorporate prior to starting the subscription business, or do you wait for the model idea to work before incorporating? Great question. In order for you to connect to a billing processor like Braintree or like Stripe, you're going to need to have that connected to a bank account. If you want to have it connected to a bank account, you've got to have a business bank account. You can do it with your personal account, I suppose, but that becomes very dirty for accountants. It's not something that you should do. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how legal it is, but I don't suggest doing it. So in order to open a business bank account, you need to have an employer identification number, and you need to have the articles of incorporation. So to answer your question, you've got to incorporate. You can do the pre-launch without incorporating, and in fact, when I did my pre-launch, I was going through the incorporation process at that time. But I mean, it's like, $150 on LegalZoom. I incorporated as an LLC. Definitely incorporate as an LLC. And it was a short, easy process. So the next question is, can you talk about how to exit a subscription business? How do you plan an exit strategy? So my last business I actually sold. So I had a business called Escape Monthly, and me and my business partners, we actually made a successful exit with that business. And even the business before that, Conscious Box, is now part of Bestowed Box. So exits can be super rewarding, first of all. But in terms of handling an exit, I think that's a great thing to ask during an exploratory webinar on whether you should launch these businesses or not. But I would say, you want to have all your resources in place, have everything really diligently organized. It really depends on your business, but the better you can be with organization, I found it to be really helpful for the people who've taken over our businesses in the past. So keep yourself organized. So do you plan on handling Canadian taxes on Cratejoy? I wish I had the answer for you, but I'm actually not part of the development or product team at Cratejoy, so I'm not really sure. I'm sure that they do. If you write into Cratejoy and say, hey, I need this, Cratejoy is one of those businesses that will be like, okay, we'll get right on it, and they'll actually start making it for you. Is there a way to start a subscription business offering subscriptions? I'm not quite sure, John, what this question means. Do you mean a subscription business that offers subscriptions to other subscription businesses, kind of like an Inception subscription business? If maybe re-ask your question in case I don't understand it. So yes. No, I mean, I think that's I don't think that you need to start a subscription business that offers subscriptions to other subscription businesses. Logistics, rebilling amounts, all managing customer profiles, that's going to be insane. And I don't think that anybody would really. I'm not sure that people would value that experience. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't suggest it. So I recently applied for a business accelerator. I was accepted. Nice, congratulations. Oh, you almost accepted. Oh, sorry. I proposed a subscription business, and they were concerned that it'd be not as successful as selling fewer event packages. Think craft for kids or birthday holiday events. Um, Subscription versus selling for specific events. My family actually does a lot of event planning in Los Angeles, and event planning can be extremely lucrative. I mean, especially it depends on where you're at. So it really I don't know where your accelerator is based out of, but if they were focused on that business model, that's a really strong business model. Actually, it seems like something that might be you know, not really intuitive to most of us. We're like, oh, event planning, that sounds like a terrible idea. But actually, there's a lot of money in event planning. Personally, though, to answer your question, I think subscription businesses would be better because it's recurring revenue. It's more projectable. It's easier to get off the ground. You don't need some super strong professional event planner. You don't need a huge staff to set things up. You don't need a catering business. The logistics behind event planning are crazy. So I think that your accelerator, they might have had a very specific type of thing that they wanted. I wouldn't beat yourself up over it. You don't need an accelerator to be successful in this space, anyways. So how can I determine how much startup capital I would need prior to a launch? Great question. This is kind of around the financial constraints again. When you're thinking about startup capital, you're going to want to have maybe $1,000 to $2,000 depending on your needs. If you're going to get a custom box, then assume that there's going to be about $1,200 to $1,500 of cost there for all of your services, your customer service platform like Zendesk, your CRM if you use one like Solve 360, your Adobe Suite, your accounting software. I use Xero. Those will all be about $150, $200 plus your domain, maybe another $150 there. Maybe $100 for web development, 3 or 4 hours for having a designer kind of go through it, some things up. So I would have like $1,500 available, but just keep in mind, you do a good pre-launch and you launch with 400 customers and you have $10 margins. You have $10 net margins. You're going to make $3,000, $4,000 the first month, and you're going to be able to recoup those costs. So for those of us who want to get into another subscription box to feel for how it works before starting our own, how do the vendors who provide product benefit, and where's the benefit measurable, especially when they're asked to provide products at cost? This is a really good question, Val. If you have a current business that you're working on, like maybe it's handmade soaps, I'll tell you right now, if you want to get a really good in-depth, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but if you want to get a good in-depth sense of this, email me at jesse@prosperly.com, and that's JESSE at PROSPURLY.com. I'm going to go ahead and send that to you, and I'll send you. I'll give you an example of how I hold vendor conversations. The truth is, there's lots of benefit for vendors. It depends on the niche, obviously. For example, I think it's called Bulu. Bulu Box is centered around health supplements and sampling. That's where they get a lot of their customers from. So it's a means of customer acquisition. For Prosperly, I buy products pretty close to cost generally. It depends on the product, the vendor, and my pitch to vendors is I do a lot of cool stuff for them in terms of promotions and marketing. I get their product in the hands of a few hundred customers who want to find these products. All of my customers are super active on social media. I've got about 6,000 people who follow me across channels for that business. I got an email list of a couple thousand. I mean, it's a good way for them to get some exposure, and plus it doesn't cost them anything. I mean, I want to give them a marketing package that doesn't have to cost them anything. I'm going to cover the cost of their products and the cost of their time usually, and they're going to get a lot of really great assets from it. I also take professional photos of the products too, and so that's kind of an extra add-on. And I do that mainly because I work with so many small businesses that don't have professional photos. And I have a DSLR camera, and I'm always just like, man, I should just take some photos of them, put them in the photo booth really quick, take some high-res photos. It's a really cool value add that usually costs you, $400 or $500 for a photo shoot. So just those things alone, it really depends on your offering to businesses. But I try to empower them as a vendor myself, or as a box business myself. I try to get as many assets to them as possible. So I'd be interested to know if there are any systems out there which allow you to easily personalize a box. Okay. Ed, this is a question about personalization. So if you're thinking about having a box where your customers receive different boxes, so you might have 100 customers and 5 different box types, so 20 people each get different boxes. At Conscious Box, we had, maybe around 40 or 50 different variations each month. And this is because we were at such a huge scale and none of our product partners could really provide enough product for all of the boxes. Personalization of boxes is extremely difficult. It's a total headache. It's very difficult to track. You're going to be doing 2 times, 3 times, 4 times as much procurement or product sourcing. The piece of software that we built that cost us $200,000 was built to solve that problem. Let me just tell you that it didn't solve that problem as well as I wanted, as well as we all wanted. It's very difficult to do that. Rather than thinking about personalizing your boxes for your customers, make the niche highly personalized. Make it something that people want. Make it a yoga box. Make it a vegan, health supplement box. Because when you do that, you don't need to personalize it anymore. You've already personalized it. Then those customers will appreciate the experience already. I mean, you don't want to have customers requesting specific products because you don't know if you can get those products, and it just adds an unnecessary. It might seem like a cool extra part of the business for your customers, but it really doesn't add too much to the experience. In my personal experience, I haven't seen that it really changes customer experience that much. So have you seen any success with local focused versions of subscription commerce where the product is not delivered by mail, but rather by pickup or hand distribution? Yes. Ben, I have seen some successful versions of that. It's a lot of CSAs, community supported agriculture boxes exist like that, where it's community produce that's delivered. But I would say don't limit yourself. I mean, shipping's cheap. If your box is small, shipping's going to cost you a couple bucks, and you might as well ship to Florida if you can ever get a customer in Florida, even if you're based out of Washington State. You can do that. I think playing with the idea would be good. Ask yourself how many people are in your locale. How many people live in your city? How many people do you think are going to actually in your city are going to actually sign up for the service? What about asking vendors to get their product in your box? Are there any languages you've drafted that you can share? So we can answer this already, Ashley. But if you want to head over to my blog, enter your email address into my pop-up. I will send you over my brand invitation. And there's also guides about this on subscriptionschool.com too. So please touch on someone who wants to pursue this but has limited means to get started purchasing product for the first boxes. So Carly, this is a kind of back to the financial constraints. You're not going to actually have to pay for products yourself, because what I want you to do is do a pre-launch page, and I want you to get 2,000 emails, and then when you launch, I want you to send emails to those 2,000 people, and then you're going to get 200 customers, 300, 400 customers from it, and you're going to use that revenue from your first month to purchase your product. That's the way it'll work for you. And if you're going to come out of pocket, it might be for custom boxes, and it might only be for a 2 or 3 week period. So if you've got limited means, I totally appreciate that. But just remember, with a pre-launch and getting a lot of people interested early on, you can get yourself a lot of revenue in month 1 to pay for everything. And to give you a little bit more detail about that pre-launch, like I said, go watch that webinar that Jameson hosted, The Right Way to Launch a Subscription Business. But you can start accepting orders on day 1 and not fulfill those orders until 4 weeks after that. Like, for example, you open up your subscription on March 1st, and then you ship your first box on April 1st. And changing rebilling dates so nothing gets messy there is really easy through Cratejoy. And so you can start accepting orders for a whole month, and you'll be using all of that revenue to buy your products, to pay for shipping, to pay for your boxes, et cetera, et cetera. So can you provide thoughts on the classes of products that do well in this model? Absolutely. This is a great question, Jeremy. For my box, Prosperly, it's kind of a wide range of products. I include home goods, I include bath and body goods, but I always make the point to provide something that's consumable right then, like some type of little chocolate bar or some type of tea or something that they can immediately enjoy. Consumable products work really well in the subscription box model because of this, immediate gratification. I mean, you get the box, you open it up, you eat something, and then you can be munching on something as you look at the rest of your items. But you don't only have to do that. One of my personally favorite subscriptions is 4-5 Club or 5-4 Club and Trunk Club. They're both like kind of fashion subscriptions. It's like just nice clothes that are sent to your home. I am a terrible shopper. I have the fashion sense of like an old babushka or something like that. And so I really get a lot of value personally as a customer from these businesses because I can get new clothes. So it's not just that, it doesn't just have to be food products. Jameson includes yoga belts and yoga mats. He has a jewelry subscription. When you look at the big ones though, it's beauty, it's food, it's jewelry. Or it's pet products, or it's nerd and novelty, like some like really highly niche nerd thing. Like I said, I was me and actually all the founders at ConsciousBox were pretty integral in the launch and the development of Loot Crate, which is one of the biggest subscription businesses now. It's another great example. I mean, it's a lot of non-edible stuff, but they usually put in like one thing in the box that you're going to be able to eat. It might be some caffeinated peanuts or something like that, or it might be some Star Wars themed lollipop. But there's that quick consumable thing. So I like always including something like that in the box. So next question, does Cratejoy allow for the option of sending out different items every month versus sending out the same products every month, or giving the customer to select which products? So this is about customization again. Cratejoy doesn't affect your procurement at all. Cratejoy is just going to be your rebilling and managing customer accounts. You can do whatever you want with your own box. But like I said, managing personalizations and customization is really difficult, Norman, and I wouldn't suggest it. I mean, it's better for you purchasing if you go to one vendor and say, I want to buy 400 units of this item. But if you go to 10 vendors and you want to buy 40 units of each one of their items, you're gonna get not as good of prices. In terms of that, I would say have one box build, have one variation each month, one box that has all the same stuff gets sent to all of your customers. So Aaron says we follow each other on Instagram. Oh, that's awesome, Aaron. Thanks so much for checking us out. We really appreciate the support. I'm glad we happened to randomly connect in a Cratejoy webinar. Okay, next question. So does Cratejoy reject anyone based on their subscription type? No way. We will work with anybody. I mean, you can be doing anything at all. As long as it's you have to follow your own state and legal laws. I mean, we're not responsible for your business type. So I don't know what exactly you want to ship, but we'll work with anybody. So Latoya asked, how do I find out if my product will be successful? I have a unique idea, but I need help understanding or knowing if it's worth it. How would I go about that? I'm going to just echo back really quick to this guide that we were looking at. Latoya, go set up a pre-launch page like this through LaunchRock. And if you want some good examples of setting up a pre-launch page, head to Subscription School. Under customer acquisition in the marketing section, there's a guide here called Setting Up a Pre-Launch for Your Subscription Business. Here is a more drilled down in depth version of what I did for Prosperly. So you can get a sense of the business here. You can get a sense of some different pre-launch options. There's LaunchRock, but there's also a lot of other different tools. Here's how I manage my LaunchRock account. Here's how I manage my theme. Build out your social channels. This really goes into a lot of depth. So what I would say, Latoya, is let's say you go through and you do all this and you execute all these things. How do you know if you should actually launch your business? Number one, you want to look at the conversion rate that LaunchRock tells you from the visitors. So for example, with Prosperly, the conversion rate was about 23%. Generally, people see around 10%. So when I saw these results, I was like, awesome, this is great. I got a high conversion rate. This is a good idea. I'm going to launch it. Out of that, 2,700 visitors, I had about 600 people sign up for my email. And then out of that email, I had about 150 customers my first month. So about 20% of my people who then signed up from that page then became actual customers. So 20% of the total visitors, and then 20% of that 20% is the customers I started out with. So let's say, Latoya, you do that for 45 days. You've got 1,000 emails. I would then expect that about 10% to 20% of those emails are going to convert. So you're going to walk away with 100 to 200 customers. So what if you move around a lot and you cannot prepare and ship these boxes to customers? That's a good question, Desiree. So some of you might be thinking like, oh my God, I don't want to pack a bunch of boxes every single month. Go to Subscription School, go to the resources section. Under the resources section, you can find a lot of really good fulfillment and shipping solutions. I use this business called Northwest Paper Box. They're based here in Portland. I can go look at my box builds. I can pick up my extras, but they pack the box for me. They're really cool because they also print my custom boxes, so it's all done in one place. But they do everything for me. And all I have to do is coordinate with my vendors to where to ship their products. and then it gets shipped directly north of the paper box. It gets put on a pallet, and then once a month they pack it all for me and ship it, and they pass it off to the UPS for me, or the USPS. So when I think about preparing and shipping these boxes, what I would suggest to do for you, Desiree, and for everybody who's thinking about this is make sure you pre-launch with enough customers, around 100 to 200, that you can go to a fulfillment company and then meet their minimum. Sometimes there are minimums. I don't think Northwest actually has a minimum, but you want to be probably asking them to pack about 150 boxes, so you can get a pretty good rate. It'll cost about $1 per box, depending on what you put in your box. So if you're willing to spend $150 a month out of your profit to have someone else deal with the entire process of fulfillment and shipping, which, by the way, I think you should, because you should be focused on growing your business, then you should check out the resources section and contact some of these people. Can you also talk about subscription businesses that failed and why? Yeah, absolutely. This is an interesting question. I think some of the subscription businesses that don't do well are based on too general of a niche. So, it's someone who's doing a snack box that just generally snacks, and then is not really branded very well. There's not really a cohesive offering to it. I think when you're thinking about what to do to not fail, it's along the lines of make sure you've established a niche. You want to know what types of customers you're serving. Make sure that you've taken the proper steps in the beginning of the business to make sure that you aren't going to be paying for the business. I mean, doing a pre-launch, the most businesses I've seen fail didn't do a pre-launch, and they started month one, and then they heard crickets. They got 10 customers in their first month, and that's demotivating, and that's going to really threaten your ability to carry on and be successful with this business. So the ones who weren't successful didn't pre-launch, they didn't narrow down their niche well enough, they didn't create enough of a brand. And I think that kind of just goes with any business. I mean, you want to make sure that you are executing from the beginning the right way. So difficult to answer, but what's the minimum investment for a wholesale product that you've made, that you've seen be successful at CreateJoy? The minimum investment for wholesale product made. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Preetha. If you want to re-ask that question, if it's in terms of like the wholesale of the products inside the box, it totally depends on the vendor. But I'll move on. I'll let you re-answer that if you're still with us. So we've already started our own subscription box company on CreateJoy, but we're on page 37. How do you get noticed, increase your presence, and be brought up on more desirable pages? So that's a great question. The pages are based, I think, on when the businesses came out. What I would say is, maybe reach out to me or Jameson at CreateJoy.com and say, hey, how can I get featured in your gift guide? If you email me right now, actually, Jesse at CreateJoy.com, JESSE, shoot me an email, say, hey, I was in your webinar, I'm on page 37, I'm trying to get some exposure. I manage a lot of content for CreateJoy, so I manage reviewers who review your boxes, and I manage gift guides on Box Insider. And I'll get your business in some spots there. If you do have a box already, you can send it to CreateJoy, and I'll send you that address over email, and I'll have someone actually review your box, and then your review will appear right on the front page. For example, it'll appear right here under recent product reviews. Now I will tell you, like the front page, I think it's a desirable place to be, obviously, but it's more so than that. I mean, you want to be working on your social media, and you want to be working on email marketing. So I would suggest spending more time on those things. I don't think that CreateJoy could send you significant traffic, but I think you can get more significant traffic from doing other things. So someone mentioned here they have roadblocks in sourcing. Depending on what your niche is, there's a lot of really great resources for sourcing. I use Etsy a lot because I'm using organic handmade products. If you want to get some better information done on product sourcing, we have a webinar here called Strategies for Product Sourcing for Subscription Boxes. This is another webinar that we held, and you can listen to James and I talk about this. And then back to these things here. This will really help you with procurement and product sourcing. Is getting these resources, so you can get those from me. Just shoot me an email. What's the best way to source products in a particular niche? Nadeem, I guess I just answered that question, but definitely check out this. Definitely check out this webinar, Strategies for Product Sourcing. Do you need to have your products in your first box picked before you set up a pre-launch page? Not at all. So actually, if you're thinking about doing a pre-launch, which you should, you can get your products chosen maybe 3 weeks before you launch, and maybe you pre-launch for 2 months or 45 days. And so your first 2 weeks of pre-launching, you're just working on pre-launching, working on your branding, and then about 3 weeks before you want to ship, you want to start getting your products in the door. Now, if your pre-launch is 45 days, and then there's a whole another month after you pre-launch before your first box ships, then you've got a lot of time. I would say generally give yourself about 3 weeks before shipping your box to get your products. Does CrateJoy platform work if my product is digital only? Yeah, absolutely. So you would just, mark your shipments as shipped, even if you don't have tracking numbers. So it would totally work. CrateJoy, if nothing else, is a really good rebilling platform. So you can just bring your customers on there and then have a rebilling every month, and then you can deliver that product in other ways. CrateJoy is not going to regulate or delineate how you have to run your subscription business in any way. So I have 100 leads over the past month for your social media. I'm planning to launch in 3 weeks and have products and products to make 24 boxes. Do you have any thoughts or advice for this plan and problems? This is for you, Kara. You got to get some more leads. I don't know what you mean by leads, if these are pre-subscribers or if these are people who have already committed to buying, but I would say get that number to 1,000. Go really hard on Instagram. Go under different hashtags for your niche. Like a bunch of photos, comment, follow people, post photos. Get your leads list to at least a few hundred, because right now I think you'll launch with about 10 customers, and so you're going to end up with about 14 extra boxes, which is fine. You can use as boxes. You can send those to bloggers, but I would say get your leads list up higher, and I would say try to launch with 50 customers. Get your leads list to 1,000 in 3 weeks. Spend a lot of time on it. Maybe even hire somebody to work part-time, or have your business partner, if you have one, just sit on Instagram all day. You got to get your leads list bigger. Is a landing page part of CrateJoy when you sign up? No, the landing page is, I use LaunchRock, although I've been pushing CrateJoy to make a really nice landing page. There is now a pre-launch page available through CrateJoy. They use Celery. It's this app where you can get people to pre-subscribe to your business, essentially. I have some kind of like quarrels with it. I don't think it looks as good as a LaunchRock page, so I would probably suggest not using that. But you should have your free trial started while you're doing your landing page, so you can start designing your website and stuff. What's the best price point for a subscription box? So price points are unique. I mean, it's going to depend on your box, and I would suggest going to the CrateJoy subscription box calculator. So go to Google, type in CrateJoy subscription box calculator. As you can see, I did not type that correctly, but it's here anyways. You can fill out your product cost, your fulfillment cost, and it'll give you your COGS. It'll then tell you how much to expect for shipping. It'll tell you how much margin you want to have, and it'll give you your price of the box. Generally, I think a little bit higher priced boxes do better because it gives you more room to buy products. So I'm thinking like $20 to $30 to $40. Possibly it's $50 a month. I give everybody a 10% off for life discount, but it gives me a very big margin. Which is great for purchasing, so I can spend a lot of money on nice products. So any advice for branding 2 separate niche boxes subscriptions under an umbrella brand? Yeah, totally. If you can manage it, Kyrie, do it. But that's double the operation. I mean, if you're doing something under an umbrella brand, I would assume that your umbrella brand would want to be something that's related to both of them. So maybe you are Healthy Business Company and you have 2 boxes. One of them is a healthy pet box and the other one is a healthy food box for humans. That would make sense to me, because you'd probably be dealing with a lot of the same businesses, same community. Product sourcing might not be that difficult then, but you can totally do that. The CRM that I use, Norman, is Solve 360. Although, to be totally frank with you, I barely even use it anymore. In fact, I don't even think I've used it for the last 2 months. I've just been using Google Spreadsheets and my own little formula here that I mentioned earlier. The little this thing. I mean, I just mainly use this. So what's the best way to create the logo by yourself? Spend time on it, Thaddeus. Go through iterations. Also, too, I mean, another great thing I should say is you go to it's not Theme Forest. It is Graphic River. It's the Envato market. You can get a lot of cool themes here. But go to graphicriver.com or .net rather, and yeah, you can find like a lot of cool, simple logos that you can start with. Maybe you get this logo for $5. I mean, look at this. it's a $5 license. You get this, and then you kind of customize it a little bit yourself. I would suggest doing that. For Prosperly, I actually don't have a logo. It's kind of like a text logo. It's just the name, and like the name of this kind of sunflower thing. So you don't actually really need a traditional logo in the way that you might be thinking about it. Okay, so does Craigjoy reject customers for the choice of niche? I think we already answered that one. No, they don't. The minimum investment for wholesale products. So Preetha, I think I've got your question here again, but oh, there it is. Oh, answered it already. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let me delete some of these. If we're close to Portland, can we come hang out with you? Totally, absolutely. Shoot me an email. We can go get some coffee and talk about subscription boxes. Always interested. Is a Kickstarter a good approach to pre-launching? Joel, I would not suggest it. Kickstarter has actually cracked down on subscription businesses because they don't want you to be able to renew your donors. If you can't renew your donors or people who want the box, you're going to have a big problem. So you don't need a Kickstarter anyways, because it's not a lot of cost. So if you can get money from the community, I mean, by all means do it, but I don't think that you need to do that. So I realize we're about 20 minutes over right now, but I'm going to just try to wrap up these last couple of questions here. I'm going to power through them. Where do you get your boxes printed? Northwest Paper Box. Gail, I see your question now, so maybe try re-asking it. Is it recommended to use a subscription business in conjunction with another business? Yeah, potentially. You can launch, if you have a blog that's really, you have a really strong blog right now, if you're a makeup blog or something like that, maybe a makeup subscription makes sense. We talked about fulfillment already. We talked about local businesses. So recommendations for affordable stock art sources. Totally. I would use for stock art, I'd use the Envato Marketplace, or also I use deposit photos for other photos. For example, you go to Instagram.com/prosperly. You can see here, every month we plant trees, or we do something with some type of charitable organization. So you can see this photo right here was pulled directly from stock photo right there. So I use stock photos a lot, just for different things that are just kind of lifestyle related. So we have already started a subscription box. I got that question already. What services or resources does subscription box need to operate? Other than this, Matt, for other services that you might want to consider using is Zendesk for customer service, and Xero for accounting. If you want to get a good sense of the ones that I use, go to Subscription School, and then go to that guide here, how I built a subscription business that's made $50K in 6 months. You can get a sense of all the services I use. I use MailChimp for email marketing, et cetera, et cetera. If you're looking to a subscription business that's part pre-made food and part made food, products like food, any suggestions where to start? If you're making your own food, you got to get a lot of different licenses. You got to be using a commercial kitchen. But I'm a huge fan of makers. If you're making something, just be sure to factor that into your COGS. I mean, your cost of goods sold, because your oils, your essential oils, or your tea packets, or your coconut oil, or whatever it is you're using to make the product, your candles, or whatever it is, the food, you're going to be working with a lot of different costs. So be sure to outline that really well. I did sign up with Craigjoy a few weeks back, but never did anything in it, and with it, and it expired. But now I'm ready. And how do I get an extension? Kyrie, I'm gonna email support@craigjoy.com, and they can probably extend the trial for you. What software do you use to monitor your monthly subscriptions? Who gets what? Who got what? I don't monitor. I know who gets what because I have one box every a month, and I use Craigjoy to manage my customer accounts. Where do you source your products for Prosperly? I source a lot of them from local stores. I just go to local stores and I look at the products. I'm like, oh, this looks like a cool product, and then I just call up that company, or I use Etsy, or I use Google. So it's a lot of different things. I get a lot of referrals, a lot of inbound inquiries. But I'm fortunate enough to live in a city that is in the niche of my own business. So sourcing is pretty easy. My blog is jesserichardson.com. And this is for you, Norman. So how do you generate your ideas, making sure they're differentiated enough from existing subscription businesses? You're going to go to the subscription marketplace, Justin, and you're going to see hundreds of subscriptions. Do not worry about them. Just focus on building a cool product experience. I mean, you don't need to compete necessarily with another business. Like, don't worry about their pricing. figure out your own pricing, figure out your own branding. But yeah, I wouldn't spend too much time comparing yourself to others. Just make a good product and market it and see the response you get. There are millions of people in this country who want subscription boxes, and a lot of the subscription box companies that are successful only have a couple hundred customers. So there's a lot of opportunity that's still out there. Um, there will be a replay of this webinar. It'll be on Subscription School and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/subscription school. So if you do want to subscribe to our channel and make sure you always get our webinars, just go to Subscription School and go ahead and subscribe to us. Any tips on determining the price point for your box? Teresa, head over to the Ultimate Subscription Box Calculator, plug in your costs, and we will give you a great price point. A good time of the year to launch? Anytime, really. I launched Prosperly in March. It's always good to launch before holidays, but we're now past the holiday season. But basically, anytime works. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Just get your pre-launch list up to 2,000 people or so, and you're gonna get lots of customers. I use USPS for shipping, Nancy, and I use cubic shipping. So I'm in the cubic 0.2 tier, and I get so regardless of the weight, I get the same rate for all my boxes. We talked about starting budget. So Yolanda is asking about how much profit per box. Use your subscription box calculator. I mean, plugging in your cost and then getting in a margin will give you a sense of $14.21 per shipment. If you have 100 customers, that's $1,421 a month. But then you got to pay for all your services. Maybe that's $400. And so you'll walk away with $1,000 a month if your gross profit margin is $14.21 per box. So price point, LO Inception. Okay. So let me see here. Did you buy the domain name Prosperly before you arrived on the name? No, I came up with the idea for the name, and then kind of when I was brainstorming it, and actually in this guide you can see this like brainstorm sheet of mine. Where I actually came up with a name here. It's like all these different ridiculous. I was trying to come up with this name, and I was trying to figure it out by 6 a.m. the next day. I was going on a little business all-nighter. And you can see, like, what's essential for happiness? Food, friends, thoughts, something thoughtful, exciting, blah, 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 blah. I want people to prosper, surprise. And I put the words prosper and surprise together, and I was like, oh, Prosperly. So then I immediately bought the domain name because I really liked it a lot. So I want to let you guys all know, it looks like a lot of your questions are populating. If you can't see them, I can probably see them. We still got a ton of questions here, so I'm going to just keep on going through them for about 4 more minutes. If I don't finish all these questions, you can ask them on our Facebook page too. Is it okay to start a subscription business that'd be primarily gifting? Daphne asks. Sure, but you want recurring revenue. So I would try to build a subscription-based product. For product negotiations, check out our webinar. I'm going to just call back to this. Go back to our webinar on product sourcing. This is where you're going to get really good advice for negotiations, Nadim. Can you elaborate on the way to brainstorm a niche? If you're looking for how to brainstorm a niche, check out the webinar, The Right Way to Launch a Subscription Business. Or we have a lot of other really cool videos on here too that are about branding and product development. If you go to our even if you go to our YouTube, you can check them out here. So for example, we have I did a 60-second sesh on how to price your subscription boxes, but right here, this branding and product development for subscription boxes. This video will really go over how to elaborate on your niche. Vitamins and supplements are cool, Trent. You can totally build a subscription box around that. There's a business called Subber. Yep, yeah, Subber. I'm familiar with Subber. I still don't really like the idea, and I don't know how much money that they're making. To me, I would just start a subscription business if you like this space. What are pre-launch activities that you can recommend to build up your community? Check out that guide. I was just at here again. Just social media. Go hard on Instagram. Go hard on email marketing. You really push a lot to get traction on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. So for inventory ordering, Jennifer asked, she's worried about it. You can I always tell my vendors, oh, I'm going to order between 250 and 300 units this month. And then as we get closer to the date, I'm like, okay, send me 275. So they're pretty flexible. And I mean, if your churn is low, if your attrition rate or the total numbers of customers you lose each month are low, I mean, it'll be pretty easy to estimate actually. So don't be too worried about that. I mean, it takes a little bit of juggling, but it's a pretty doable task. Um, yeah, so if okay, let's see here. These questions have all been answered. Um, so Gail's asking about digital content too. Cratecho is not going to limit anything. So if you give people a download link for some product, Cratecho will still people can still download it. I mean, they haven't built a solution specifically for digital content. Um, uh, so Okay, so we got some more questions here. So do you have any advice to ask vendors that provide products at cost rather than wholesale? I think we kind of talked about this already. Check out that webinar we talked about. Okay, so this is about longevity of customers. How do you maintain longevity? It's all about, Ed, it's all about the niche. You wanna make sure that they value, make sure that they're not wasting their money. For example, with Prosperly, I always kind of advertise an $80 average retail value, which is the average retail value of my box. The box only costs $44 after a coupon, so people can't feel like they didn't get their money's worth because they definitely did. So to get the right products in your box, again, Charlene, check out our webinars on that. There's a lot more information. So the average box price. So the examples you provide are all contingent upon an average box price around $30. I'm curious, how do box subscriptions that cost only $10 make a profit for Ipsy? For example, Ipsy. Ipsy and Birchbox are loss leaders. They're probably not making any money on their subscription boxes, and they're instead making a lot of money on their makeup sales. So it's a totally different business model. So that's how they do it. I mean, they're doing online e-commerce sales, and they might be making a little bit of money there, but I don't know. So what's your email address again? It's jesse@cratejoy.com. So thank you. You're welcome. Can I ask anyone I can talk to if I want to pursue personalization? Yeah, I mean, if you shoot me an email, Ed, I will be happy to chat about it more with you and give you a little bit more detail. I can talk to you more about my suggestions if you do want to do it. I mean, I've put together 40 variations at once sometimes, so I'm pretty experienced in it. But yeah, I don't think there's any real experts for personalizing subscription boxes out there besides maybe Jameson Morris and myself. So the price calculator is just start.cratejoy.com/subscription box calculator. So I'm just going through and exit these questions here. So I'm not going to be able to get to all these, for these questions about pre-launching or product sourcing. Definitely check out our other resources, our other videos. Cratejoy does offer non-renewing subscriptions. They're the gift subscriptions. We talked about Kickstarters. Protecting your niche, like I said, don't worry too much about someone taking your idea. I mean, there's millions of people. No one's going to come and if you have 500 customers, you don't have to worry about that type of thing. For more information about advertising, head to Subscription School or go to either my blog, jesserichardson.com, or even Jameson Morris's blog. If you want to get some resources too, I definitely suggest going to Jameson's blog. He's one of the co-founders of of Conscious Box, and he's got a lot of really good guides on how to start a subscription box with marketing and that type of thing. So if you do have other questions that weren't answered here, sorry if I didn't get a chance to answer them, please go to facebook.com/cratejoy, and you can ask them on the wall there, and I will answer them over the next couple of days here. Or you can go to facebook.com/subscription school, and you can ask questions there too. Please feel encouraged to like these pages too. You'll get our updates. You'll get new guides from me. You'll get opportunities to ask me questions about anything you want. So go like those pages. And if there's anything else that we can help with, anything else that we can do better, there's going to be a short poll that's going to pop up at the end of this webinar here as soon as I close it in the next couple seconds. Please answer it. Be as detailed as possible. Our goal is always to give you action items, give you things to do at the end of these webinars and make sure you feel like you've got a lot of value. So let us know how I did, and let us know about what you want to hear next. And if there's any other resources that you have identified on Subscription School or Cratejoy that are lacking, if there's some more stuff that you want to get. Other than that, thank you so much for coming to this webinar. Our next webinar will probably be the first week of January. So go subscribe to the Create Joy newsletter, and go to this Create Joy blog and get on that newsletter so you can get into our next webinar. And again, thank you so much. Thanks for attending. This webinar will be available on subscriptionschool.com in a couple days. And have an awesome weekend, everybody.